So welcome everyone to our presentation. We are two presenters and it's certainly difficult to keep us apart. This is Petra Hoffstaedter. I'm Kurt Kohn. For many years we have been involved in European projects in multimedia language learning, blended language learning, corpus-based language learning, intercultural foreign language learning. And this is Tekola now. It's the very peak of all the things we have done. Our topic is about learner diversity and trying to account for learner differences, and pedagogical differentiation is certainly one of the key issues in school education. We would like to touch on some of the issues in the context of our Tekola intercultural exchanges. Our main focus will be on three telecollaboration tools, very different tools. On the one hand, the virtual world you have just experienced, then video communication in Big Blue Button, and these digital walls in Padlet. We will talk about their pedagogical affordances. We will talk about their potential for learner differentiation. And we will also talk about matching telecollaboration tools with individual learning goals and needs and preferences. To further illustrate our insights, we will take into account observations from two pilot studies.
Okay, so let us first have a look at the three environments. You have already heard a few things about the different environments. So in the virtual world and in Big Blue Button, students communicate in a synchronous mode. So they have to be there at the same time. But the difference between the tools, there are quite a few differences. And one of the very important difference is the students' communicative presence. So in the virtual world, students are present through avatars. And you have seen that before. So they can move around in the virtual world, they can interact in the virtual world, and they can talk to each other through the avatars. So this is very important, they can really talk. In Big Blue Button, in the video environment, students are present as themselves, so they can see each other and they can while they talk to each other, which is a completely different situation. In both environments, students can work in pairs or small groups, and this should preferably be done from outside the classroom, for instance, from home. And we can talk about this later, maybe why that is the case. In Padlet, students can post written, spoken, or video recorded messages. They can include pictures, and we have seen examples earlier already. And this can be done in a synchronous mode, where students are active at the same time, or it can be done in an asynchronous mode, where they interact at different times, where they post their messages at different times. So this can be done in small groups or larger groups. It can be done in the classroom or from home. So Padlet is a bit more flexible here than the other two tools. So the question then is, what does that mean for differentiation?
When using technology to facilitate pedagogical differentiation, it is very important to keep in mind that tool selection should always be motivated and driven by pedagogy. Resist the temptation to use a tool because you are fascinated by it or because it is fashionable. So it's pedagogy which drives it all. It is important to aim for a realistic balance between pedagogy and technology. Regarding the pedagogical perspective, in our context, the focus is on individual learning goals, learning needs, and tool preferences. Regarding the technological perspective, it is important to carefully check your available technological infrastructure. It is a simple truth that you can only use technology successful if it works for all partners, for all students involved. Well, and since the unexpected might happen and will happen, it is important to be flexible and to have a plan B. Now let us have a quick look at matching tools with learning goals and needs. Here are some of typical learner statements that are relevant in our Tekola context. Student A here would like to practice his intercultural conversation skills. Student B needs more pronunciation and fluency practice. Student C feels that her presentation skills need to be improved. And student D wants to work on his written expression. Now, depending on technological preferences, students A and B could both use either the virtual world or video communication. Of course, with an important difference. In video communication, they would be able to see each other. In the virtual world, they communicate through their avatars, but within a maybe interesting, stimulating scenery. Student C, with her presentation skills, well, she can actually present in the virtual world. She can also show her presentation slides in the virtual world, but only in Big Blue Button, in a video exchange, she would be able to enliven her presentation and support her presentation with facial expression and body gestures, and maybe be able to see some of her audience's reactions, which are very important. Student D, who wants to improve his written expression, for him, Padlet or Google Docs would be good tools, which could be used synchronously at the same time for both students involved, or asynchronously. In the asynchronous mode, it would give student D enough time to practice, to write, to work on his posts before actually posting them, which can be very essential so that he can work towards his own satisfaction.
Yeah, we will now look at some examples from our exchanges to further illustrate the differentiation potential of the different tools. And the first pilot was an interaction between students from the Netherlands and from Germany. They were between 16 and 18 years old, and their average level of proficiency was about B2. And these students used English as their lingua franca, so that was their common target language. And their learning objective was to practice and improve communication. The students discussed and explored topics on a topic on waste and waste avoidance. So they collaborated in pairs and they worked in this virtual world. And they used the learning path, which was somewhat different from the treasure hunt, but it uses the same boards and also some interactive boards like a multiple choice board. So what they did was that they watched the video together and they discussed this video. That the different statements, video related statements that were displayed on these interactive multiple choice boards. And then they also exchanged personal experiences about waste separation and recycling. And then in the end, they had to come up with ideas for how to avoid waste. And that is also something that we always try to do in our task, that students also have to be creative, come up with a result, solve a problem, something like this. So that's what they did. And I think they, from what we heard, they all enjoyed it a lot. And I think a few of them will be here today, and they will also later talk about their experiences on this learning path. So this was designed for the virtual world, but the same task could also be carried out in a video environment. Yeah, in this case, the content, the content would not be presented on the boards, but it could be uploaded into this presentation box in the video environment with Blue Button. And so the question for us was then also, well, were all of the students happy in the virtual environment? Or would some of them maybe have preferred to do the task in Big Blue Button, where they could see their partner and communicate in a different way? And that is what we also asked them.
So all our students, our virtual world students, also had experience with video chats in Big Blue Button. So we interviewed some of them to find out about their tool preferences. And as you can imagine, there were positive statements, perceived advantages of the virtual world. I feel the virtual world really cool. It's nicer and more fun to be in it. I feel more at ease in the virtual world when the partner only sees me as an avatar. One of them even told us, well, I'm less afraid to make mistakes, or I don't have to worry about how I look and these things. Well, then there were negative perceptions as well. One of them told us, well, I really don't like the virtual world, and she did not see any added value in it. Regarding the video chat, students said, I want to see my partner. So they have a clear preference here, because that is real, instead of looking at an avatar in an artificial world. The negative statement here, or a negative statement, was again concerned seeing each other. Seeing each other in a video chat can be quite awkward. So I have to control my facial expressions, and particularly when you don't know what to say, when you think, when there is these awkward pauses, and there need to be awkward pauses, and these pauses need to be given time so that they can sort of think and work on what they want to say, and that can be awkward when you're in front of a video camera. Many of them told us that they felt, yeah, okay, it depends on the topic and the task, whether I prefer this tool or that tool. So it's a more complex issue, but what is clear here is that students and teachers need to make a decision as regards to which tools fit their own learning preferences and needs best. Over to you.
So the second pilot was an exchange between Spanish and German students from vocational programs in early childhood on early childhood education. And in this exchange, students did several tasks and they explored different topics from their professional field. And they decided to do that in an asynchronous exchange for different reasons. So first of all, the students' class hours didn't match, so that is a very important issue. That they have matching class hours if they want to meet at the same time. And then the second thing was they didn't have time to work from home, so that would be another option, to work from home in a synchronous mode. And the third thing was that they didn't really feel comfortable enough to already communicate in a synchronous oral communication environment. So that's why Padlet was just the tool for them. And in the first example, that was a topic on nursery school food. So the students there were assigned to 5 different groups of about 6 students, 3 from each country. And they would work in the classroom and post their messages, write their messages. And they would then, the other class would then, from the Spanish class, for instance, then would be the second one, and they would respond to the posts and write comments and so on. So I have here on the left side, you see 2 examples, 2 walls from 2 groups, and you see that the students' contributions may differ quite considerably with regard to the lengths and thematic depths. So that is the case because these students were on very different levels. So there were some who were like A1, A2, and the others were B1 or even up to B2. So that was a very diverse, really a lot of diversity with regard to the level here in this class, in these classes. And the second example was, the topic there was outdoor play areas. And here the students compared through different outdoor play scenarios. And in this case, they expressed their thoughts by an audio recording. So they used the audio recording facility in Padlet, and they recorded their thoughts and exchanged them. So what does this tell us? Yeah, and in others also, I think you had that as well, where they used the video facility, and we also have that with others where they use the video. So what does that tell us about differentiation in Padlet? So by creating written, spoken, or audio recorded messages, students can practice different skills. So depending on their ability, on their needs and preferences, and they can do that at their own pace. So they can write and revise a message, they can record and re-record themselves, and until they're happy with their recordings if they need more time. And there is also a varying degree of learner autonomy possible in Padlet. So students could work from home, from in the classroom, get support from their teachers, or they could work more independently from home. They could work in teams and help each other. So this is a very important issue, and that is something that students liked a lot. And then the teacher can also decide to give students the freedom to decide which thematic aspects they want, to focus on, or which skills they want to practice.
Okay. And here are a few things for you to remember. Again, technology selection requires a pedagogical concept and a pedagogical approach. Very, very essential. Second, horses for courses. The same content can be used in different tools but with different possibilities then for learning, and also with possibilities for differentiation. Each tool has its place and its time. This again accounts for scaffolding, makes it possible to scaffold things according to skills. So speaking, writing, maybe first a little bit of writing to be safe, speaking in a safer environment, and then in a more open environment. Students can work in pairs or groups, and this enables them to help each other according to their strengths, and we should encourage them to help each other according to their strengths. The available technology, well, we said a few words on this. Be flexible. Don't be too ambitious. Start slow and be successful with your plan B. Thank you very much. And over to your comments and questions now.
Okay, from the chat, Barbara Pizziconi from London asks the following question. How many of your students are actually familiar with and enjoy virtual games? In relation to the comment by one student who didn't see added value in interacting through avatars. I don't know whether that was...
We haven't checked this for the students involved in these games, in these studies here. In a new exchange we are now engaged in with Greek students and German students. The Greek students like games, whatever that might mean. Our own experience is that it's not necessary to be familiar with games and gaming. It might be from comments we received earlier, also in previous exchanges, that if someone is very, very strongly involved in high-level gaming, then they might feel a little bit disappointed about what we have to offer in terms of gaming. And I remember a very smart remark by a clever student who pointed this out. He was a gamer, but then he added, well, but maybe gaming is not the main purpose here, but the purpose is to communicate and to learn the language. And that hits the point.
Yeah, any other questions? Okay.
Thank you so much. I really like the option so you can differentiate, and especially with Padlet, so you had like writing, audio, or video. But I was just wondering if you let the who chooses, if you let the students decide, they might always choose the safe option, because it is exposure. If I put my video up there, people can evaluate me. So I might just choose to write all the time. So I wondered what's your reaction on this comment.
Yeah, we actually started, for instance, with the vocational school, we started with just written. And then we said, well, okay, the next task, it's spoken, you have to speak. And so then gradually they get used to it. That was the idea of scaffolding that Kohn also mentioned. Yeah, so that they can gradually become familiar. Some, they would immediately use audio or video. And then also the thing that they worked in groups, in small groups, also in the classroom. And they said that really helped them a lot. So they said, well, I tried to express myself, and if I didn't know how, I would ask my team members. Yeah, so that was also an important issue. Yeah, but you can encourage them, of course, and then.
So did they also put up group work on Padlet, or was it individual work but made with the help of peers?
No, that was then group work. Also, for instance, this where they had this audio recording, So there was the girls from Germany. They would even record. They would change. So they would have one recording and introducing themselves, and then saying their opinion, and they would continue like that. And in the Spanish, it would be, yeah, each student would just say what they thought, had an individual contribution. So that was also mixed, and with written as well. So they had a common written thing. They revised it together, and they also said that it was important for them to be correct and to make themselves understood. And I think it was more so because they knew they would be speaking and talking or writing to people out there. It's not their classmates, it's not for the teacher, but it was for real people. Yeah. So that was very important. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you love to shout, Larry, but you're not allowed to.
I especially love to shout order, but I won't. Anyway, Niels Drexler from Germany says, Kurt has just mentioned student preferences. How did they like working from home? Flipped classroom.
Well, I don't need the ball. I wanted to play the game. Yeah, right. No, they liked it a lot. And we liked it a lot. And the teachers liked it a lot. If it worked, of course, the technology has to be in place. But what we observed was that at home, in their conversations, it became more something like out of school. And you know, I mean, with regard to authenticity, there is this talk about going beyond the classroom and all these things. I mean, intercultural communication is out there, and it is very, very difficult to bridge over from within here to out there without being able to step over this line. And this is what becomes possible here. And in our experience, students liked it from home. It was more an issue of well, arranging times. And but on the other hand, I mean, it made it possible. It is just, well, let's say, very difficult to find matching class times. I mean, it's just, or then if you have matching class hours, well, then you have this 1 hour. And now imagine organizing your class in a computer room, 20 guys in a computer room. And it's very difficult to get something decent done. In particular, if you want to talk, then to talk, speaking or writing, well, that's easier. That can be more easily done. And this was in our Padlet exchanges, even with an advantage, so where they could get help from the teacher and so forth. But speaking, when we are very, very strongly in favor of doing things, well, not necessarily from home, but outside class hours. Outside class hours. And we would strongly sort of support all these arguments regarding going beyond the classroom and providing possibilities for this. And this is where these communication technologies come in. This is where they have their big advantage. And we only need to make it possible within our educational context, which is not easy. And we will talk about this in our panel discussion, I'm pretty sure.
The time offer. Wow.
Do you also have examples from teacher training? Because we've been mainly discussing about secondary education. Do you have examples or good practices?
So well, regarding training, what we did, we really coached the teachers. So we talked to them what they wanted to do. We helped them with technology. We gave tips. So is this kind of thing what you?
Yeah.
I was wondering if you also studied teacher training programs, how they work
No.
with your, no?
No.
Okay.
So it's not clear to me what you mean by studied teacher training programs. Go on, back
You
to
throw
hall.
it back, please.
Because I'm just curious because they are the future teachers doing these projects. So in our teacher training programs, we are also looking at this type of learning, these type of projects.
Well,
So I was just wondering, because this is also a conference for teacher trainers, if there was a study about teacher training programs.
well, there are projects going on focusing on teacher training. The Evaluate project, for instance, the European Erasmus Evaluate project, and they involve teacher trainees to exchange with each other and communicate with each other about how to organize online classrooms and use all these things. And we focus rather on working with teachers and their students. And well, believe you me, that is the most important part. And this is where, um, um, well, I have many students who have gone through my teacher training courses at university and who worked in European projects with me and who are teachers now, and only very few of them are able and willing to engage in these activities here, just because it is so difficult to get it done in their everyday practice. It's not their fault, it's the fault of the pedagogical system, if you like, and it's not, but it's in all our countries, I believe. So I think it is very important to go beyond a teacher, sort of initial teacher education to continuous teacher education, and to help teachers on the job to well, change their pedagogical mindsets and to take these new things on board together with their students, and not as a workshop. And then they go back and then nothing happens. We saw this.
Yeah, and
But
it's-
on the job.
I would like to add something to it. Okay, we are dealing here with the teaching of the future, right? And we have some very wonderful pioneers introducing telecollaboration at secondary schools. We are, because I am also a teacher trainer. We are training our students to become these kinds of teachers who would go to the classrooms and who will be introducing this in their teaching. Yeah, because we all promote authentic interaction, intercultural awareness, these kinds of issues. So that's why this is the place for teacher trainers to be here. So what do? Well, in NIFLAR, which was another project, we did include this in our teacher training courses, where our students have to read capital selecta about what are meaningful tasks, what about intercultural communication, digital learning, these kinds of issues. But then they had to develop tasks for telecollaboration, then carry out tasks with peers abroad, and then analyze the interactions. And of course, the roles are teachers as prospective teachers, and the tasks they have developed. Yeah, so that's something that some colleagues are doing already, but I think that's well, we all should be doing that. So I think that's a little bit our message. Yeah, that is the teacher training of the 21st century. We should be preparing our teachers and our learners to be able to do this kind of cooperative work, not just working within the four walls. So, and that's a little bit our message.